Since 1968, the Bucks of the NBA have called Milwaukee home. As one of the smallest media markets in the league, the team has had a relatively quiet history, enjoying its greatest successes back in the 70s. Fast forward 40 years, and the team has, in recent memory, struggled to find success. During these same years, the city faced its own challenges as the local and national economy shed manufacturing jobs and opportunity became scarce. Then, in April of 2014, with the city's pro basketball team coming off its worst ever season, the organization changed hands when longtime owner and U.S. Senator Herb Kohl sold the team to Mark Lasry and Wes Edens, hedge fund managers from New York. Around the same time, the league announced a deadline of 2017 for the team to build a new arena or it would be bought by the league and moved to another city. Now, a year later, with a great deal of uncertainty still surrounding the project, the deadline still looms large, leaving a strong impression on some.
I think that was smart by the NBA because you don't want this thing to drag on forever. The longer it drags on, the less likely it's going to happen. And what always happens is that somebody from pro sports comes in to be the bad guy to say, you're going to lose this team. In the case of Miller Park, I remember Bill Bartholomew, who was a general manager from the Atlanta Braves, came to town and talked about how, we were going to lose the Brewers if we didn't step forward with this tax money. And in this case, we've got NBA Commissioner Adam Silver doing the same thing.
With the league setting the terms, groups with a vested interest in Milwaukee don't see many ways to contribute to any kind of public-private partnership.
But honestly, they're all reacting to the NBA that said, you got to have a new facility by 2017 or we're moving the team, which in our mind, that's extortion. But nobody seems to think that because they're billionaires and they have a lot of money. And so it's infuriating that this discussion about how to use our money is going to be made by a very small group of people.
If the league's way of doing business is unappealing to some, the city's history of public financing for professional sports facilities does nothing to ease skepticism over the latest proposals. Local elected officials are keenly aware of this.
Well, I think it's probably it's probably worse than it was during the time period many years ago with the debate on the Miller Park, and that was a 5-county additional sales tax on the region. 5 counties would pay an additional half-cent sale tax. But a state senator from Racine lost his job in a recall election because of that. But I would say the attitude of the public has probably gotten more opposed to public subsidies of sports franchisees than even then. So a recent survey done by Marquette University indicated 80% of the public in the state are opposed to any financing for the sports franchise.
Opposition to public financing is evident at the state level as well.
When you look at the options for arena funding, with the public financing being one of those options, it's typically been an unpopular method for the public, and it's not new, or it's not just because of the Bucks. When you look at Miller Park Stadium that was financed with the small increase in the sales tax, a lot of people still have a bitter taste in their mouths from that, seeing that the the sales tax has yet to sunset, as it was proposed to have been much earlier than now.
Despite this overwhelming opposition to subsidies for sports teams, there are reasons to believe that the Bucks and the current ownership will be successful.
One of the big differences between this and Miller Park is the owners of the Bucks are much better salesmen than Bud Selig was. They've been very strategic about the way they've done it. They've always framed it as an investment that's going to build downtown. Plus, they have so much money that they're able to spend some money on ancillary development that somehow makes this look better. Selig didn't have those kind of deep pockets.
These advantages working in favor of the new ownership almost seem unnecessary with so little in the way of opposition coming from the public.
The only thing that has surprised me a little bit, with the exception of opposition from a community group called Common Ground, you haven't really heard from the public at large. You get letters to the editor. I certainly get emails from people who are opposed to the arena, but as in terms of an organized opposition, with the exception of Common Ground, that has not been heard from all that much.
The nonprofit has been around for 6 years and has undertaken the work of organizing solution-minded citizens with the goal of creating a stronger, more unified voice.
Yeah, I think that our folks are fired up and excited about the fact that we're the one counter voice in the city that's saying, look, if we're going to use public money, we have to also do something for neighborhoods and for kids.
In response to the call for a new arena, Common Ground launched a campaign called Fair Play with the goal of putting $150 million public dollars to work, improving playing fields and recreational facilities for kids in Milwaukee County.
Partner with the individuals who are planning to do the arena. Looking at it as the Bucks arena is a place where the Bucks play. We were looking at it where our children play. So kind of parallel it there with them, wanting to just bring out to the community and to everyone that even though there's other issues that we could focus on, this was an opportune time for this one.
To propel campaigns like Fair Play forward, Common Ground relies on two fundamental methods.
So our organization is really based on, I would say, two things. One, it's about relationships. And so our leaders and our organizers spend a lot of time having conversations with people that are part of congregations, part of neighborhoods, part of businesses, to really understand who they are, what they care about, and what are the things they want to work together with other people to improve in our community. And then the second thing is we're about power, is that we believe that citizens should be able to make and negotiate deals in our city.
Early in 2015, Common Ground found that one of the new owners had a company with a presence in Milwaukee.
So we started with Milwaukee Rise, and Milwaukee Rise is an organization through Common Ground, an entity with Common Ground that fixes abandoned properties and foreclosed properties in the Sherman Park area. And upon our research of looking to find out who owned the properties, Nation Star name came up an awful lot. And then we found out through that, the owner of Nation Star is West Eaton, which is part of the owners of the Bucks.
With this new information, the group found it even more difficult to stomach the subsidies being called for from the team.
Well, it was basically because when you look at West Eaton's asking the city of Milwaukee for millions of dollars to build a Bucks arena, which he has the money for. Then we look at the neighborhoods, the blighted neighborhoods, our communities, rundown houses and things like that, the crime rate, and it's a connection, you know. How can you ask for X amount of dollars, but our neighborhoods are blighted? I mean, they're terrible. And knowing that he's the cause of it and don't even have the morals to say he needs to address this problem and fix it up before even asking money, it's kind of just, it's a big insult to the city of Milwaukee. It should be an insult to the whole city of Milwaukee.
Groups with a more favorable view of the Bucks see many potential benefits that would come only by keeping the team in Milwaukee. But they also appreciate the challenges that come with public financing.
So anytime there's tax dollars talked about in a community forum setting, which is just the court of public opinion right now, and so people are passionate about it one way or the other. But this is not just a sports topic. This is a urban development topic. This is growing the city, retaining talent, attracting talent, and trying to take Milwaukee to another level for the next generation.
With arguments from both sides beginning to take shape and no one taking an anti-Bucks position, the project for many turns to the specifics of the funding.
Well, the major challenge that we're facing at this very moment is the financing. And there's great discussion about the commitment from the public right now in terms of how much will be made to the project. The governor has outlined his proposal of $220 million. The state legislature under Fitzgerald and Voss have reduced that to maybe 150, and we don't even know if that number is still solid yet. And then if you still stand by the governor's proposal, he's asked the city and county to come up with an additional $50 million, split equally 50-50. That would be $25 million from the county and $25 from the city. So right now, things are somewhat in flux because the governor seemingly is backing off what he committed to now, and we still don't know yet what the state legislature is committed to.
This state of flux has been evident in Milwaukee and in the Capitol.
But they're asking for more from the city and more from the county. And the state is asking for more from the city and the county. And the response should absolutely be, $25 million is still a lot of money, whichever way you look at it. And the response should be okay, well, along with that comes XYZ. I mean, it should have been the case for the 25 million, but, since it hasn't been said yet, I still think there is opportunity for the mayor, for the county executive, even for the governor to say that, we didn't just build an arena, we're looking to build the entire city of Milwaukee. And it can be done. When you're dealing with that large of a number, it can be done.
The total amount in subsidies has not been discussed much, but some have calculated estimates.
There's been a lot of attention on this $220 million state subsidy proposed plan, but in fact that's a small part of what it would be. In addition, you're going to have the interest on that, which the taxpayers are going to pay. That could be another $160 million. You're going to have a property tax exemption for the facility. No other business gets this kind of property tax exemption over, say, the 30-year likely life of the arena. That's probably worth in excess of $400 million. You're going to have a $25 million contribution minimum from the city, $25 million minimum from the county. You're going to have federal and tax exempt bonds. You're going to have sales tax exemption on the materials that build the arena. Basically, when you add all this up, I come up with the likely tax subsidy is more than $850 million.
Certain outcomes of the financing of Miller Park are certainly informing local decision makers now.
Well, I think that politicians have learned a lesson. So when it came to Miller Park, they had a highly visible sales tax that was charged in 5 counties only, and those counties never got to vote on it. But it was a very visible tax, and as a result, the voters in Racine got very mad. They recalled a politician from office, State Senator George Petek. So what did the politicians learn? You learn that you need a sneakier tax. You need what I call a stealth tax. And so you need taxes that don't look like a tax.
The idea that building a new arena will generate economic growth and development is not a new one, and it's often brought into the discussion despite serious doubts.
Baseball Commissioner Alan Bud Selig, of course, when he was Commissioner of Baseball, presided over maybe something more than a dozen projects across the country in which he lobbied in favor of a new baseball stadium. And to use him as an example, he would often argue, well, these are economic engines. They increase economic activity. Well, the sports economists, if they agree on anything, usually agree that that's not the case, that these are not necessarily engines of economic growth.
Agreement on the economics is expected to shape decisions moving forward.
So, I mean, the research is very conclusive. There's pretty much 100% agreement among sports economists that arenas don't add value. You don't see an increase in terms of the overall economic value. That's why I would like, if this is done, it's got to be done in a new paradigm, in a different way where I can see that that's not going to be the same old scenario. I want to see what type of tenants they're talking about bringing down here in terms of jobs and creation of new activity. But the arenas on themselves have not generated anywhere near the return on investment that the proponents have said they have.
All of this does not, to some, mean that arenas cannot be productive investments.
There also is some body of evidence that suggests that when you build an arena, it does, if you build additional development around that arena, cities can find ways to make that beneficial on a cost-benefit basis, that it pays off in the long run.
Completing this project the right way is an ambiguous idea, but one that some are looking to define.
I see an opportunity for growth in the city of Milwaukee, and that opportunity exists with the ancillary development. It exists with other things that aren't just the arena. But those opportunities can only exist if we fund it properly. And if there is one dime of public money, whether it's from the city, county, or state, there should be a public benefit that matches that investment from whatever entity puts money into it.
The importance of any surrounding development is emphasized at the city level as well.
Well, the priorities for the City Council is certainly I think it would be fair to say people want to see the Bucks stay in our city. It's one of 30 cities across the country that has a major league franchise. However, it is all about a cost benefit, so it depends on what the investment the city is asked to make, but the key thing is the ancillary development surrounding the arena. The Bucks itself don't, for the city's purposes, the Bradley Center and the New Future Arena is all tax exempt. And any income taxes or sales tax goes right to the state of Wisconsin. So the ancillary development is key for the city because it adds value in terms of property taxes, but certainly jobs in our community. So the critical decision as we entertain the new arena is what is that development, when will it occur, what will it entail?
Moving forward, the city will play an increasingly important part.
Well, we will be. I think people misunderstand the process in the context that as the financing gets into a more final stage, we will. But right now, it's, as you can see in the last 3 months, you see the governor saying 1 month, 220, and now he backs off. So, it is falling like a bouncing ball. And I think until I see, as president of council, some solid evidence that the state legislature and the governor have come up with a number that they feel is appropriate, that's when the serious negotiations entail. So obviously the mayor has been involved in the discussions. I've been privy to them. And he's asked me for my advice on this, and I seek the counsel of my colleagues. So at this time, we'll see in the next probably week or so what eventually comes out of the governor's office and the state legislature, and then we'll go from there.
At the Capitol, a firm timeline does exist.
So this was put into the budget, right? So there's a timeline there that, by the time the budget is signed, a deal has to be worked out. So that's the major timeline that we're looking at, unless we remove it from the budget, which then it's indefinite. But at some point, the budget has to be signed. At some point, the Joint Finance Committee has to debate whether to adjust the funding, change the funding mechanism, or remove it completely from the budget.
The signing of the budget will most likely happen in June. Back at Common Ground, there's a strong sense of accomplishment while looking back on the last couple of years.
Yeah, when we started our campaign in April of 2013, our first objective was to say we want to change the conversation about the use of public money in our city. And we've done that because when everybody talks about the Bucks Arena, Common Ground comes up and our Fair Play campaign comes up. And so that was our first goal.
The debate surrounding the proposed new arena was never very robust, but groups like Common Ground could still be heard. In the next weeks and months, residents of Milwaukee and Wisconsin will find out what kind of contribution they will be expected to make to a new arena for the Milwaukee Bucks. Earlier this year, the Bucks moved their offices to the Schlitz Business Park. The team declined an invitation to participate in this program. The Office of the County Executive also turned down a request for an interview.